The narration is from a deep, resonant, alien voice, tinged with a profound, ancient sadness. My name is High Archivist Thrax. My species prides itself on perfect recall and impartial documentation. We are the memory of the galaxy, which is why I must record this, our greatest shame. We were the Galactic Compact, a union of 12,000 worlds, at peace for millennia. Then they arrived, a young, violent, unpredictable species from a forgotten world. They frightened us. So, in our wisdom, we voted to exterminate them. But how did their primitive ships shatter our invincible armada in a single afternoon? Why, when they held our worlds at their mercy, did they choose to forgive us? And what terrible, silent enemy were they truly preparing for, an enemy that now comes for us all? The Galactic Senate voted for our extinction, now they beg for mercy. Before we begin, if you wish to see more stories of humanity's finest hours, subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. It tells the great algorithm that our tales are worthy of being told. Alright, let's begin the story. If there's one thing I have learned in my 372 cycles of existence, it's that the universe has a twisted and deeply ironic sense of humor. My name is Thrax, High Archivist for the Galactic Compact. My species, the Viridian, are living records. We remember everything. We are the ideal historians, or so we thought. It turns out being impartial is a great challenge when you are documenting your own civilization's self-inflicted downfall. Begin recording. Historical document 7294B. The Human Resurgence. I adjust my posture frame before the recording drone, here in my comfortable, well-appointed prison on Earth's moon. The truth deserves to be preserved, even if it paints us all as the fools we were. The Galactic Compact's decision to exterminate humanity ranks as the most catastrophic miscalculation in our 12,000 cycle history. I should know. I voted for it. The memory still burns in my secondary brainstem. The Great Hall on Proxima Centauri 4, all 5,000 representatives from across the galaxy, their varied forms shimmering under the soft light. And my own voice, clear and steady, joining the chorus that condemned an entire species to death. To understand why, you need context. Humans weren't like us. While most species evolved through cooperation, humans clawed their way to the top of their food chain through sheer, stubborn violence. Their history was written in blood. Their greatest technological advances came from trying to kill each other more efficiently. When first contact happened, we were so excited. A fresh perspective. And oh, they did bring one. A fresh, terrifying perspective. We might have tolerated them, with their strange biology and chaotic politics, if not for the Cthar Dominion incident. A territorial dispute over mining rights. We had written the treaty with deliberately vague language, a standard test for new species. Every other species had responded with formal complaints. The humans nuked the entire Cthar fleet. Not a warning shot. They waited until the extraction fleet was in orbit, then detonated what they later casually described as a few demonstration devices. 67 ships and their crews vaporized in a blink. The Compact was in an uproar. Their ambassador, a man named Eris Thorn, was summoned. I remember him standing before us, looking entirely too comfortable. High Counselor Thara of the Jeli, her gelatinous form pulsating with rage, accused him. You committed genocide over a mining dispute. Thorn had the audacity to laugh. A harsh, barking sound. Genocide? Don't be dramatic. If we wanted to commit genocide, you wouldn't be having this conversation. We eliminated a military threat in our home system. We don't start fights, but we sure as hell finish them. That was the turning point. They were winning too much, too fast. They weren't playing by our rules, and they were succeeding. So, we decided to eliminate the problem. The vote wasn't even close. We marshaled the fleets of 68 member species. The Purification Fleet, the largest military operation in Compact history. We emptied treasuries, diverted resources from 1,000 worlds, all to wipe out a species that had barely mastered interstellar travel. It should have been over in a day. What followed was the most catastrophic military defeat in recorded history. The first wave of UR fleet hit their outer colonies and met fierce, impossible resistance. The second wave never even made it. Human fleets our intelligence said shouldn't exist, emerged from hiding places our extensive surveillance had somehow missed and ambushed our forces with devastating precision. The main fleet, the pride of the compact, over 10,000 vessels, arrived at Earth to find it surrounded by defensive platforms that had been invisible to our scans. And waiting beyond them was a human armada, outnumbered 100 to 1, but positioned with a chilling, predatory confidence. The human commander, Admiral Eva Rostova, broadcast a message across all our channels. "We know why you are here." Her voice was calm, cold. "We have known for years. Did you really think we wouldn't notice 5,000 diplomats voting to exterminate us? Did you think we wouldn't prepare? You came here expecting to find sheep. Instead, you found wolves who have been watching you bare your teeth for decades. You have 10 minutes to surrender or retreat. This is your only warning." The commander of our fleet, to his eternal shame, laughed. What happened next still defies explanation. The human ships didn't just fight back. They executed maneuvers our physicists had deemed impossible. They deployed weapons that shouldn't have existed. They fought with a coordination that suggested they had rehearsed this exact scenario 1,000 times. Within 6 hours, the purification fleet was reduced to floating debris. The war was over, and we had lost. We all expected retribution, planetary bombardments, the kind of vengeance we ourselves would have exacted. Instead, the humans did something far more terrifying. They forgave us. 3 days after our failed attack, human fleets appeared in the home systems of every species that had voted for their extinction. Not to attack, just to demonstrate that they could. Their ships would materialize, broadcast a simple message. "We could end you today, but unlike you, we do not commit genocide." And then vanish before our defensive fleets could even respond. A week later, humanity presented its terms: recognition of their territory, reparations, and the surrender of all individuals who had planned the attempted genocide. There was outrage, threats. Then the humans demonstrated the weapon that would come to be known as the Star Dimmer. A single, colossal human vessel appeared in the Kthar home system. Without warning, it fired a projectile into their sun. The star's luminosity dropped by 15% for precisely 3 minutes, plunging their worlds into a terrifying twilight before returning to normal. The message was clear. They could extinguish stars at will. The compact capitulated within the hour. I, as the archivist who had documented the case for their elimination, was among those surrendered. I expected torture, execution. Instead, I was assigned to document the war from the human perspective, to record their history, their reasons for showing mercy. It was during this time that I met General Eris Thorn again, the same man who had once been their ambassador. He was older now, his hair white, but his eyes retained that unsettling human intensity. "Why?" I asked him during our first meeting. "Why didn't you kill us all? You had the power. You had the justification." Thorn looked at me with what I have now come to recognize as pity. "Because that's what you would have done," he said simply. "And we are trying very hard not to be like you." 3 years have passed, and now the compact has descended into outright panic. It began at Outpost Zeta 9. A remote monitoring station at the edge of charted space. It went silent. A scout vessel was dispatched. They found the outpost intact. No damage. But every living being aboard had been altered. Their genetic structure had been rewritten, transforming them into... I lacked the vocabulary. The closest approximation would be living processors. Biological computers, with just enough of their original consciousness remaining to scream. Within hours, 5 similar reports emerged from other outposts along the galactic rim. The compact's response was predictably useless. Committees were formed. Speeches were made. Meanwhile, 3 more outposts went silent. Then, High Counselor Thara, the same Jedi who had once led the charge for human extermination, did something unprecedented. She sent a direct, private communication to Huma, in leadership, begging for help. The result was immediate. Human warships appeared at every affected outpost, and for the first time, they revealed what they had been building in secret for all these years. They called them Sentinel vessels. Each one was the size of a small moon, a perfect, featureless sphere of black metal. They took up positions at strategic points along the galactic rim. No explanation was offered. 3 days ago, General Thorn summoned me. His office on their moon base offers a spectacular view of Earth. "It's time your people knew what we're really up against," he said, his voice heavy. "What we've been preparing for all along." He activated a holographic display. An image appeared, a map of the galaxy. And beyond the rim, a wave of something, a ripple in space-time itself, was approaching from the intergalactic void. We call it the convergence, Thorne explained. We detected it 27 years before we even made official first contact with your people. The hologram shifted, showing a derelict vessel tumbling through the void. It was both organic and mechanical. Wrong. Fundamentally wrong. This ship emerged from the convergence 16 years ago, Thorne continued. We sent a probe to investigate. It transmitted for 3 minutes before going silent. This is what it sent back. The image changed to the ship's interior. And bodies. Hundreds of them, from dozens of species. All of them modified, transformed into those things from Zeta-9. But what is it? I asked, my voice a whisper. We believe it's a technobiological entity, Thorne said, his expression grim. It propagates by converting organic life into extensions of itself. It doesn't just kill, Archivist. It repurposes. The victims, their knowledge, their memories, become part of it. A cold dread washed over me. And it's coming here. It's already here, Thorne replied. The outbreaks at your outposts, they were beachheads. Insertion points. Why haven't you told the Compact? I demanded. Thorne laughed, a humorless, bitter sound. Tell the Compact? The same organization that voted to exterminate us? The same politicians who can't agree on trade regulations without decades of debate? We tried. Years ago, we tried to warn you. You dismissed it as human paranoia, an excuse to justify our military. I remembered. We had. So we prepared on our own. Thorne continued. Every ship we built, every weapon we designed, all of it was with the convergence in mind. We knew we might have to face this threat alone. But now, we no longer have that luxury. Our models indicate a full-scale invasion within 6 months. That's why you're telling me this, I realized. You want me to inform the Compact. They will believe you where they might still doubt us. I sat in stunned silence. Everything I thought I knew about humans was wrong. Their aggression, their military focus, it wasn't because they wanted to conquer us. It was because they were preparing to defend us. I will need to see everything, I said finally. Irrefutable evidence. Thorne nodded. You will have it. Starting with a field trip. To where? His expression was grim. Outpost Zeta-9. What I saw there will haunt me for the rest of my days. 20 beings, from a half-dozen compact species, still physically present in the station's central lab, but no longer individuals. Their bodies were partially fused with the outpost's technology and with each other. Limbs extended into cables. Skin hardened into circuit-like patterns. And they were still conscious. Please, a voice rasped, not from a mouth, but from the entire altered form of what was once a Jedi physicist. End us. As we turned to leave, a distorted voice called out from a being that had once been a Viridian, like me. Thrax. Archivist. Record truth. I froze. What truth? Its glowing eyes flickered. Tell? Compact. Prepare. Or become. No escape. No victory. Only transformation. We barely made it back to our ship before the entire outpost erupted in a strange, alien energy as the infection reached critical mass. Admiral Rostova ordered its immediate nuclear sterilization. Back on the moon base, I met again with General Thorne. Now you understand, he said. It wasn't a question. Yes, I replied. But I need to know your plan. How do we fight this? He showed me the network of Sentinel vessels on the hologram. These aren't just defensive platforms, he explained. HFY are nodes in a quantum field generator. Once activated, they will create an energy barrier, a quantum shroud, that should, in theory, prevent further convergence incursions. In theory, the energy requirements are substantial. How substantial? Thorne met my gaze. His voice was flat. The activation process will trigger controlled supernovas in 200 uninhabited star systems. I stared at him in disbelief. 200 stars. It's this, Thorne cut me off, or we watch as the convergence transforms every living being in this galaxy into those things you saw at Zeta-9. He was right. There's something else, he added. The barrier won't be perfect. Our models indicate that a significant number of convergence elements have already penetrated too deeply. We will still have to fight them directly. We project we will lose between 20 and 30% of all sentient life in the galaxy before this is over. Billions upon billions of lives. I need to address the Compact, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Immediately, 6 hours later, my image was projected into the Great Hall on Proxima Centauri 4. 5,000 representatives stared back at me. Esteemed members of the Galactic Compact, I began. 3 years ago, this body voted to exterminate humanity. Today, I stand before you to tell you that had you succeeded, you would have doomed our entire galaxy to a fate far worse than extinction. I presented the evidence, the derelict ships, the nature of the convergence. I showed them the unfiltered, graphic recordings from Zeta 9. I explained the quantum shroud, the sacrifice of 200 stars, the projected casualties. When I finished, there was silence. Then outrage. Denial. This human plan is unconscionable, a representative argued. Destroying 200 stars. It is more conscionable than the transformation of every living being in this galaxy into a techno-organic processing node. I roared, my voice echoing in the hall. I have seen what happens. I have heard them beg for death. There are worse fates than extinction, and the convergence offers one of them. The debate raged for hours. Finally, I'd had enough. Listen to yourselves, I shouted, silencing them. You debate procedures while an existential threat advances. This is exactly why humanity didn't come to you sooner. They knew you would react with skepticism, bureaucracy, and inaction. I took a breath. We condemned humanity for being too aggressive, too prepared for violence. We never once considered they had reasons we couldn't comprehend. And how did they respond when they defeated us? Did they exterminate us as we planned to do to them? No. They showed mercy, not from weakness, but because they recognized that survival requires cooperation. I gestured to the hologram showing the convergence's advance. Now we face a threat that will eradicate our very identities. And humanity, the species we tried to destroy, has spent decades preparing to defend us. The question before you is not whether to approve their plan. They will activate their quantum shroud with or without your blessing. The question is whether we will finally recognize that our prejudice against humanity may have been the greatest mistake in our collective history. The hall was utterly silent. Then, High Counselor Thara rose slowly. Her neural tendrils were pulsating with a pattern I'd never seen before. Not anger, not fear, but shame. The archivist speaks truth, she said, her voice carrying across the chamber. I, who once led the call for human extermination, now stand before you to acknowledge my error. We misjudged them. We feared their difference, rather than recognizing its value. She turned to address the full compact. I move that we immediately declare a state of galactic emergency and pledge our full military and scientific resources to support the Human Defense Initiative. The motion passed. 1 month later, I stood on the observation deck of the human warship UES Horizon, alongside General Thorne, Admiral Rostova, and representatives from 32 compact species. Around us, a fleet of over 50,000 vessels, human and compact combined, had assembled. Stellar detonation sequence will begin in 60 seconds, a calm voice announced. Around the view screen, beings from across the galaxy, former enemies, now allies, joined hands, tentacles, and appendages in a spontaneous gesture of solidarity. Initiating sequence. The view screen dimmed as 200 stars along the galaxy's edge flared with unprecedented brightness. The energy was channeled through the network of Sentinel vessels, converted into a quantum field that spread like a shimmering wall, encircling our galaxy. For a terrifying moment, it seemed the barrier might fail. Then, it stabilized. Cheers erupted. We had bought ourselves time. A chance. General Thorne didn't cheer. His expression remained solemn. This isn't victory, he said quietly. It's just the beginning. He was right. The war would be long and brutal. Billions would die. But as I looked at the diverse beings on that deck, humans standing alongside the very species that had once voted for their extinction, all now united, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. Begin recording. Historical document 7294D. The Galactic Convergence War. I spoke clearly, for the benefit of whatever historians might access these records in the future. Assuming there would be a future. Today, the combined forces of the Galactic Compact and humanity activated the quantum shroud. It is perhaps the supreme irony of our time that the species we once condemned for their warlike nature may prove to be the salvation of us all. I paused, looking out at the shimmering barrier that now stood between us and the infinite, hungry dark. 3 years ago, the Galactic Compact voted for human extinction. Today, we beg not just for their mercy, but for their protection. And they, despite every reason to abandon us to our fate, have answered our plea. Let the records show that when faced with the obliteration of the very species that had tried to destroy them, humanity chose to fight, not for their own survival, but for ours as well.